Babe, there's something different about my mango pineapple smoothie.
Really? My caramel frappe tastes fine.
Nah, something's definitely different.
No difference? Other than I got them for half off because I ordered on the app.
Well, that explains it.
Explains what?
How things seem to taste so much better when you're getting a sweet deal.
Okay.
Right now at Mickey D's, get 50% off any size McCafe beverage when you order through the McDonald's app.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid one time per day. Visit McDonald's app for details. Download and registration required.
Mary redeemed a $50,000 cash prize playing Chumba Casino online.
I was only playing for fun, so winning was a dream come true.
Chumba Casino is America's favorite free online social casino. You too could have the chance to win life-changing cash prizes. Absolutely anybody could be like Mary. Be like Mary. Log on to ChumbaCasino.com and play for free now. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details. The voice in the preceding commercial was not the actual voice of the winner.
What's up, guys? It's Chloe Culpepper, Marketing Coordinator for the Westwood Collective, and I'm here today at The Junction in Old Hilliard. The Junction in Old Hilliard offers flexible office space for all your small business needs, 24/7 co-working memberships, and affordable private offices with reservable conference rooms, daily refreshments, and shared amenities. Work, meet, network. Visit us at junction614.com. That's junction614.com to learn more.
Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. My name's Corby LaCroix, and the song you're hearing right now is called Great and Mighty One, available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your music. But for now, recording from the Unscripted studio at the Junction in Old Hilliard, here's your host and my friend, Aaron Conrad.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my studios in Old Hilliard. And speaking of Old Hilliard, I'm just going to cut straight to the chase. I don't want to take any more time than is necessary for me to just sit over here and talk. I want to go to what I believe is going to be one of the most powerful stories we've ever shared on Unscripted. And I can tell you this up front, one of the most awesome people I know, and I have the blessing to call my friends. So, Shaun, why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Aaron. I appreciate you even taking the time to consider and having me on the show. It's definitely an honor and a privilege anytime I get the opportunity to share my story, to just talk with good people, which I put you in that category, man. So.
Thank you.
But yeah, man. So again, my name is Shaun Lane. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, a city called Youngstown, with my mom. So she was a single parent of four, and life was it got challenging at times. So I grew up in a faith-based environment where we went to church. Man, we went to church so much. I mean, we lived in church. The kids that I went to church with were closer friends than the kids I went to school with. That's how much I went to church.
Wow.
So, I mean, Sunday, twice, morning and evening, Tuesday night, Wednesday was rehearsal, Friday night. That was every week. So, and my mom, she taught us that, church was a priority. So growing up, I didn't really have the opportunity to participate in many sports simply because if it was a conflict with our church schedule, we just couldn't do it. So we were always in church. I never played football. In the yard I did, street ball, but I never really participated in any organized sports. And at the time, I didn't understand really the importance of church. I knew that we went a lot. I knew that it was a major part of our life, but I didn't really understand the purpose behind it, if you will. So I just thought we were just going to this place all the time to learn about God. But now, years later, I understand the importance of not only being in church, but having a relationship with God. But going back to my time then, so yeah, we did participate in many sports. So I grew up in the inner city. My mom really figured it out. She really figured out just her and us four. I got two brothers and a younger sister from my mom, and then I got a stepbrother and a stepsister on my dad's side. But I think back to, my mom and how hard she worked and how much she did for us to try to make it. I didn't know that we were really struggling until I got older. And you can't really hide when the lights get cut off or if the water gets cut off. You can't really hide that from your kids. So it was at those times when I started realizing that, we're kind of struggling. Mm-hmm. Now I say all to say my dad, I love my dad. I love my dad to this day, and I love him then too. He just wasn't as present at that time, but now our relationship is amazing, and I talk to him every week, and no love lost there. But again, I'm just referencing back when I was growing up. So yeah, we were pretty good in sports, in street ball, because we didn't play on actual teams or in organized sports because of church. But I fast forward to my 8th grade year in middle school, and my mom worked, so she had to be at work from I think 8 to 6 or something like that. In middle school, we went to school so early, so I was catching a bus at like 6:30. I had to be at the bus stop, and then we normally got out of school about 2:15. So I don't know why I thought it was okay. It wasn't okay, but I still did it. I just tried out for the football team. So I would go to practice every day, and then I would get home before my mom got home from work. So she had no idea. She had no idea.
Hang on, Shaun. So you played football, your mom didn't even know?
I was on a football team. My mom didn't even know.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. Yep. So here it is. I'm every day. And, the house that we lived in wasn't necessarily close to the middle school I went to. Because they had closed down, like 2 years prior, they had closed down the middle school that was near my house. So they were just busing students all to one middle school, which was, I would say, 10, 15 miles away easily from my actual house. So by me playing sports, I had to find a ride home after practice, right, which means I normally walked home. So I would hurry up and hustle home before she got home from work, just, try to backdoor.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Seriously.
Yeah.
What about like waivers and stuff? Did you have to get waivers signed, or it's a different time? But
yeah, different. I don't know if I forged it or what. At that time. I don't know. So here we are. I'm practicing. I'm going to practice every day, and it turns out to be the starting quarterback. So I know, man.
Come on, man.
So here we are today. We're literally loading the bus to go to our first game, and I tell the coach, like, "Hey, my mom don't even know I play football." Yeah. So we go down to the office. He's like, "What you mean?" Yeah, I said, "She don't know." So because I couldn't hide it then, but the game wasn't going to be over till after 6 o'clock. I wouldn't be able to make it home before she got home. So
right.
We go down to the office. We call her. We're talking. She talked to the coach, and then I get on the phone. I'm like, oh man, here we go. I thought I was in trouble. She's like, what? Go ahead and play. So I'm like, oh my God, that was probably like one of the most exciting moments of my life to that point, just to get the green light to actually play football. So went out, and she actually showed up to the game and had a really good game. Scored a couple touchdowns, and that's where my football career actually kicked off. Strangely enough, I didn't think that I was going to be able to play the very next year because I would have been in high school, because high school football games are on Friday nights. We had church Friday night. So I was almost comfortable without even asking. I'm like, look, I'm going to get this 1 year in, and I'm just going to hang my hat on that. But, that following year, she said, look, I'm going to let your brothers play because I let you play 1 year. So she let us all play, and we that's where I think a lot of my toughness was built at, as far as from a sportsmanship and the ability to compete, because our school, we're Division III, but we were playing against the Maslins. We actually played against LeBron James my freshman year.
Right.
He was a receiver. So we played against St. Vincent, St. Mary's.
That's right.
Yeah, it was fun, but again, we were getting thrashed. We were getting demolished by some of these teams. They were bigger teams, and we just couldn't stack up against them. But again, it taught me toughness and how to prevail, if you will, against adversity. That was the introduction to it.
Mm-hmm.
So you fast forward my sophomore year, had a decent year, and then there was a school a Catholic school in my area called Ursuline, which they had just won the state title, and just a good school known for producing some talent. And they were interested in me coming there to play, so I was for it. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Everybody in the city knew about Ursuline. If you had an Ursuline Letterman jacket on, people knew who you were. So I was looking forward to that opportunity. So it was crazy how God was already working in the details at that time. But again, here I am, 14, 15 years old. I didn't see it. I just knew what I wanted and what I wanted to do. Right. So I'm going to give you the details of it. So in order to go to Ursuline, which Ursuline is in downtown, near YSU campus, you cannot, at the time, you could not have a Youngstown address. You had to live somewhere outside of Youngstown to go to a school in Youngstown, which was strange, So what we ended up doing was we used the address for one of my mom's best friends that went to our church, which was out in Hubbard. It was out in the city called Hubbard. So we used her address to be able to register at Ursuline. My mom took me and my younger brother. My younger brother's a year younger than me, so he was a freshman. She took us out of Youngstown City schools, but my older brother was a senior, so she let him stay and finish out his time there. And this is after Christmas. She took us out of school. She with the intent to enroll us in Ursuline at the beginning of the new year. So we went to about 2 or 3 meetings at Ursuline, and it seemed like each time we went, something came up for his name was Father Murphy. He was a principal. He had to reschedule, like literally 3 times. So my mom's taking off work, taking us there. We're out of school for almost 2 weeks after school start because these meetings keep getting postponed. And then finally after the third one, she's like, you know what, this is enough. I'm taking y'all to Hubbard. So we went down the road to a school called Hubbard, and that's where only thing I knew about Hubbard was that they went 10-0 the year before. They had a guy named Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith was a great athlete. He went on to play at Syracuse. He won 2 Super Bowls. He won one with the Steelers and one with the Packers. But again, that's the only thing I knew about Hubbard at the time. So we ended up going there, and I remember being frustrated and not understanding. Like, I don't want to go to the school. I remember saying that to my mom. I don't want to go to the school. She said, well, God has a plan. And we just gonna trust in what He's going to make a way. So I remember the frustration in that conversation. But, that turned out to be one of the best moves that I've ever made. I get there, meet my high school coach, Coach Beck, and, he really took me under his wing and taught me a lot, not only about life, but he, even when Ohio State started coming and knocking, showing that they were interested, he was the one that was getting me down to Columbus, just to get with the coaches and go to the camp. So he was making sure that I was where I needed to be. But high school career went well. We got offered by Ohio State after my junior year, which was right after they won the 2002 national championship. So it was a no-brainer. That's where I was going. I remember being in Coach Trussell's office. My dad was there, and my dad played at Ohio State. He was a captain back in the 80s. Okay. So just that, that tradition, that opportunity was just. When he told me that they wanted to offer me, I said, yeah, where do I sign? I'm like, I'm here. He said, well, no. He said, you go home and think about it. They was actually going to meet the president after winning the national championship. He said, and I'll get back with you on Tuesday when we're back in town. So,
wow. Well, being a Youngstown guy, you probably knew Tressel, right? I mean, you were familiar with Tressel and really the Tressel family, I think it's connected to Youngstown State, and that could be wrong on that, but I know even growing up in Cleveland, everybody knew Tressel, and he was so tied to the university in Youngstown State before he even went to Ohio State. So you probably knew him before you even went to Ohio State.
I sure did. I mean, he won like 5 national championships at YSU, or something like that. So well known. And I think back to him getting a job at Ohio State. That was 3 years before I went there, but it was just, every God was in the details every step of the way, because I'm not sure that he would have even known who I was, because I think Coach Trussell was on the coaching staff when my dad was at Ohio State. So again, just all the ties and how God weaves and wove his life, like it's just amazing. Even me just sitting there talking to you, I never even really put it all together in that aspect, but just moving along through the journey, I get down to Columbus, Ohio State, dream come true, just an amazing opportunity. And, I just wasn't for sure if I could be real honest and transparent with you, like I wasn't for sure that I measured up to the level of talent that I was, about to be competing with, because we had it was a platform called JJ Huddle. I don't even know if it still exists. But what it was like a recruiting website where people, they talked about who was being recruited and everything else. And, they will, I will read the comments, unfortunately, of what they would say about me. Like, they shouldn't be recruiting him. Like, that's the last, so I was reading that stuff and taking it in. So when I got to Ohio State, I almost, I didn't feel like I belonged. It was, Ted again, the number one top recruit in the country, So he's coming in, and Marcus Freeman, and, we got some big hitters coming in, and here I am, just a guy from Hubbard, Ohio, 5'10", 165 corner.
Right.
So we get there, and I know pretty quickly that I had to figure out a way to make a name for myself, I just switched I remember just changing my thought process. Like, I'm not going to be afraid of anything that comes at me, and I'm going to take it head on. Mm-hmm. So any chance I got to make contact with somebody, any chance I got to hit, I want to make sure they knew I was there. So that's kind of the mentality that I took on while I was at Ohio State. And, my teammates started knowing me for it. Like, Shaun, he'll lay the wood on you. You watch out. You watch out.
Head on a swivel.
Yeah, man. Keep it on a swivel. So that's kind of what I adopted, was that mentality of, going all out, trying to, when you arrive on the scene, everybody needs to know you're there. And so you come in with, you bring some heat, you bring some wood to the party. So
right.
I adopted that mentality, and that's how I went at everything that I did at Ohio State. One of the unique stories was, here I am. So I'm going into my redshirt freshman year. We're in camp. I'm a number 2. I'm right behind Tyler Everett. I think he was a senior that year. And we had a freshman come in that was pretty good, but again, he was behind me. His freshman name was Malcolm Jenkins. So,
Okay.
So we got a freshman come in. I'm a 2, Malcolm's a 3. And that summer, we had some guys that got in some trouble on campus. So they got suspended from the team. So they couldn't participate in camp. So here we are, the second week of camp. Again, I'm number 2 in the depth chart, and they come to my room, my hotel room, and say, "Hey, we're going to need you to switch over to running back. We don't have enough running backs on college." I'm dead serious.
List your tail of the tape. 5'10".
Yeah, yes.
5'10",
about 170, 175 at this time. So
there's not a lot of 5'10", 175 tailbacks in the college football.
Especially not in the Big Ten.
Especially not in the Big Ten. Absolutely. Sorry.
So I'm like, okay, the team player, like, all right, I'll do it, because I played running back in high school. So they switched me over. We get to first the beginning of the game. So of course Malcolm moves up. He's a 2 now, and I'm on a depth chart, and I think I'm 3rd on a running back, 3rd or 4th. And then not to mention that we already knew within a year that Beanie Wells was on his way. He had already committed. He's a top.
I was going to say, who was in front of you? Because, I know OSU is like RBU. So
yes.
Who was in front of you?
We had like Brandon, Joe, and Brian, I think his name was Snicker. So we had some guys that were, filling in, and but we just didn't have that dominant threat. Some of the guys, again, that had got in trouble, that wasn't even we had Antonio Pittman. He was there.
Right.
So he was the main guy. Me and him actually came in the same year. So he was our main guy. So there was backs, but they didn't feel like the depth was there. So again, I switch over. So I'll switch over. First game of the season, we're playing against Texas. And Vince Young is a quarterback. It's at home.
Right.
And it is rocking. That game was rocking. It was probably one of the loudest, next to the Michigan game. It was probably one of the loudest I've ever heard at Ohio Stadium.
And that was the game of the week, right? Whatever night that is. What is that, Saturday night or Monday night, whatever it is.
It was a Sunday night game,
So, it was a big deal. I do remember. Again, I'm not an OSU fan. I'm not a hater. I'm just not. I'm a Carolina fan. So, but I watch sports when they're on TV, and I remember that game specifically. I do remember that game, and it was like the game of the week. There was a ton of buildup, because what was the ranking at the time? I think it was like right? I mean, I think this was the game before the season, right? Like this was, because you always have a couple of those circled on your calendar, and this was the game. I do remember that.
Yep. I mean, you figured you had between both teams, you probably had about 6 or 7 guys that went first round just in that game, So it was the AJ Hawk, the Barbie Carpenters, the Vince Youngs. I mean, it was a lot of Dante Whitners playing in that game. So again, here it is. We're in the first quarter. I think we might have been the second kickoff of the game, and our starting corner gets hurt. So Tyler Everett gets hurt. Oh, no. And here it is, Malcolm plugged in. Now he's a starting corner, and he ended up starting for the rest of his career. Like he
never gave it back, right?
He never gave it back. He started the rest of his career. Malcolm Jenkins goes on to win the Jim Thorpe Award for the top defensive back in the country. First round draft pick to the Saints. I mean, and there would be times that I would say, man, that should have been me. That should have been me. Right. That should have been me. That would have been in that space. And it wasn't until later on, just a few years ago, where I really started to put together why maybe it wasn't me. Again, we don't understand God's plans and why He does things, but sometimes He gives us a brief glimpse into His planning and the things that He had in store. But that year, so not only was I was on offense, and the guy that was behind me was now the starter, but I think it was the 7th game into the season, I tore my ACL at Minnesota. So going down covering the punt, it was a non-contact. I just was running, and I kind of felt it pop and ran off the field. And so that was the first real adversity that I faced at Ohio State, trying to come back and come back from that rehab. But again, the mentality of going at everything as hard as I could, because I already felt like I was didn't measure up, if you will, to the talent, the skill level, the size of these guys that we were playing against. So I was going to bring it with effort. So I rehabbed real hard. I mean, I rehabbed. I lived in there. And then, season started. I'm still on offense. Beanie Wells is there. He's obviously taking the spot of, between him and Pittman. They were just battling back and forth. And I get, I think it wasn't until my junior year, my redshirt junior year, I finally convinced Coach Trustle to allow me to transfer back over to defensive back, because I knew that if I had a chance in the NFL, that it was going to be as a defensive back, not a running back. At that time, again, that was my thought. So I'm thinking about my family. I'm thinking about, the change I can make to not only my family, but the generations of my family afterwards, again, with the proper planning, of course. But that was always in the back of my head, being that ticket, being that opportunity, being that source of removing us from not necessarily poverty, but from living the life that we grew up living, where just barely getting by is enough. That's a mentality that we grew up with. So, I jump on the scene again, get a chance to switch back. But once I switch back to defensive back, I'm third on the depth chart. I got like 2 redshirt freshmen in front of me, so some guys that were playing some good ball too. So it was just an uphill battle to try to even get back in the starting rotation. So I had to make a name for myself kind of in special teams, where I would get out just making plays. That's what it was. It was effort and, grit, trying to make it happen. So, I kind of made a name for myself on special teams, recovering punts, forcing fumbles. It just, again, just giving all the effort that I had. During this time frame, me and my wife now, we have my oldest daughter. So here I am, a dad. I had her my junior year of college. And I shared with you guys because, that was, at the time, it was like, I remember having a conversation. I remember having to share it with my mom, and it was, the last thing she was trying to hear. Not necessarily hear, but the last thing that she felt that I needed, or that I actually needed from a standpoint of being focused on the task that I had at hand from being in college and being a college athlete. Yeah. But some of the stuff I learned during fatherhood, it definitely helped me later on in life. Again, God, He does all these different things. At the time, we don't see it. We don't understand it. We don't understand the move. And it can seem as if it was not a mistake, but it was something that it was an opportunity that we shouldn't have took advantage of, if you will.
Right.
So navigating through that fatherhood, and I remember me and my wife now, Tiara, we had one car, and she worked in Marysville. We lived in Hilliard. She worked in Marysville. Then we would have to get her there about 6 o'clock in the morning. Then when I had to get my daughter to the daycare, which was on the east side on Livingston, and then I would have to get to class. So we were doing that like every morning, and then go to practice, get out of practice, go pick her up in Marysville, and then go pick up the baby. So it was leaving the house by 5:15 in the morning and probably not get back to maybe 8:30, and then doing your schoolwork after you get home and still trying to be a father. So it just, I think about those times. I don't know how we did it, but again, it built up character, built up grit to prepare me for what I was going to face later on in life. So I mean, we jumped to the last game of the season, my senior year. We had a Fiesta Bowl playing against Texas again. Colt McCoy, I believe, was the quarterback at this time, and I remember that day. Just waking up January the 5th, 2009. I'm in a hotel. We stayed at Fairmont Princess, which is one of the nicest hotels that you'll ever. And I woke up, and my roommate was already out of the room, and I'm just sitting there on the bed looking up at the sky, and I just felt, I knew that I was blessed. I knew that God gave me so much opportunity and so much talent, and just the position that I was in wasn't a position that a lot of people had the opportunity to be in. So I was just thankful, man. Like, I was sitting there like, you know what, Lord, I just thank you for this moment, for this opportunity. I don't know what comes of it. I don't know what comes after it, but I'm just thankful. And I won't say I've never had that feeling before, but I've never had that feeling to that effect where I just paused and sat in the gratitude of the opportunity that I had. So I just sat there and just was like, man. And it was just a brief, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but I just vividly remember that, just sitting on the edge of my bed and thanking God for, just everything that I had up to that point. So.
Hey everyone, my name is Cammie Pranel and I'm the Executive Director for My Unscripted. We hope you are enjoying today's interview. My Unscripted is dedicated to helping others find their voice, passion, and follow their dreams. Our team can help create websites, apps, YouTube channels, podcasts, media, and social content. Whatever your passion and vision, we can help. Our good friend Manny Ahome of Samaritan's Feet once said, "Make sure your dreams and goals are big enough to create room for others to join you." We've created room for you to join us too. Find out more at myunscripted.com. Now let's join Aaron for the second half of today's interview.
When you get that sense, when you get that moment of I'm not sure what that was,
right.
A lot of times you really need to lock in on that, and you may not know it until years later or moments later. And so let's cue back in on your story, because I think you were about to find out why you just heard that.
Yeah, and again, I didn't. Just like, it's funny you say that, because I wasn't even listening for God. I'll be dead honest with you. At that time, that was not the last thing on my mind, but it wasn't first or second. Right. So and just having that moment, which I think prepared me for that night. So we go out to take the field against Texas, and here we are, second quarter of the game, and we're kicking off. I think we had just scored, and I'm running down on kickoff, and I'm telling you just how I saw it. So I'm running down, and it felt as if everybody moved out the way, like just paused and everybody moved like a commercial. And it's just me and the guy that's running the ball. And I see him, he sees me, and it's like, oh, I'm about to knock this dude out. Like, that's what I thought in my head. Like, I'm not even going to break down and tackle this dude. I'm going to try to run straight through him. So that's what I did. I took off. Normally, I kind of, my normal approach, I kind of throttled down to make sure I'm making a tackle. But I was going for, I'm just trying to blow him up. Either I'm like hitting good or I'm 100% miss. And I'm okay with both. So I just ran at full speed. And so I go and I hit him. And right when I hit him, I felt a loud humming in my ear. And it was like almost as if I've never been struck by lightning, but I can almost I would compare probably to that. That may be the sense or sensation that I felt when I hit him. and everything just froze up, like, boom. So I hit him. I roll over on the ground, and I just knew right at the moment that something was off. I didn't know what. I just knew something was off. I heard the crowd kind of say, ooh, when I hit him, so I knew I got him. But it just was something was off. So as I'm laying there, one of my teammates, his name AG, he picks me up. He's celebrating, so he picks me up off the ground, and he's trying to celebrate. And I asked him, I said, AG, where's my arm at? And he said, what? I said, where's my arm at? He said, it's there, man, it's there. So at that point, the trainers are already running out because I guess they could tell something was off. So he laid me back down on the ground, and I'm just sitting there looking up at the ceiling of the stadium, and I'm like, what? I didn't know. I just didn't know what had just happened, but I did know at that time that I couldn't feel anything on the right side of my body. I couldn't feel my arm or my leg, and I'm just laying there looking up, thinking like, no way did something like this. I don't know what happened, but no way did it just happen. Like I'm gonna come back and everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be fine. This is me talking to myself, and I like to joke around a lot. So I found myself trying to joke around with myself and other people in that moment, just to bring light to the situation if it wasn't that serious. So again, the trainers get out there, they're kind of filling up my pads, trying to see what's going on. As I lay there on the ground, my leg just randomly started twitching and came back to me. Like to this day, I don't know why or what caused it, but it just came back. So I was able to move my leg, but I still couldn't move my arm. So they pulled a stretcher out and put me on the stretcher. They're rolling me out and going to the hospital. Strangely enough, this was the first bowl game my mom had ever made it to. So my mom was out there, my wife was out there. So fortunate in that aspect. But yeah, they transport me over to the hospital and start running all types of different crazy tests. And again, just not even knowing what actually happened, what the issue was. But in my mind, I'm thinking, how quick can I get back on the field? How quick can I get back to, chasing this dream or fulfilling this dream that I have of being a professional football player and being able to provide for not only my girlfriend at the time and my daughter, but my mom and my siblings and other people in my family, being able to be a resource for them. So
when running a business, your employees can create all kinds of interesting situations, like getting complaints because someone on the team always smells horrible. You better talk to Bambi. Or someone isn't showing up when they're supposed to. Talk to Bambi. Or an employer reports a serious issue, like sexual harassment, and you're not sure if you have a documented policy. You really need to talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Visit Bambi.com/assistant right now. Spelled BAMBEE.com/assistant. Bambi.com/assistant.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out.
The pandemic has been hard on all our kids. New studies show more than 1 in 3 children who started school in the pandemic now need intensive reading help. Here's the good news. Your child can be reading in just 30 days, guaranteed, with Hooked on Phonics.
My first grader was behind in reading, and this program has made a huge difference. She's now reading above grade level.
I use it for my kids' nightly reading for school. We love it, and it's super easy and quick to do.
My kid, who just turned 4 years old and has been using the program since January of this year, can now read. Thank you so much, Hooked on Phonics.
Even if your child has been struggling, Hooked on Phonics will teach your child to read in just 30 days, guaranteed. And right now, you can get started for just $1. Text the word KID to 323232 right now. It's fast and easy. Text KID to 323232 and teach your child to read in just 30 days, guaranteed. Text the word KID to 323232. Text KID to 323232.
That happens, and I'm laying in this hospital bed, and everything was off. Like, everything was off about my body. Like, I couldn't, if I had to use the bathroom, I couldn't even hold it. Like, I had to go right now. Like, the body was just off, man.
Wow.
It was, going through that shock. So I was in the hospital for maybe 3 or 4 days in Arizona, even after the team went back. You know, Coach Trust and everybody. A couple guys came out seeing me at the hospital, and I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know at all. I was worried, but I think that I tried to block out one thing, and I think it was a skill that I developed, but it was also it prevented me from sometimes enjoying the now. Was always looking for the next thing. Like, okay, I got this. I'm looking forward to coming back. Like, I just wasn't trying to be in that moment. I was looking for, okay, I'll be able to try. I'll be able to do this and that. And I was always looking forward. But again, I think about that now. And sometimes it prevented me from enjoying the now, the moment that I was in. Because, I mean, the reality is the only thing we actually ever have is now. We're looking for tomorrow, but we don't get tomorrow until it's now. Like, even an hour from now, we don't get that hour until it's now. So being conscious and aware and intentional about enjoying it now is so important in life. And I'm learning as I see my girls, my daughters grow up so fast before me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, slow down.
Well, and I think over the last 2 years, we've learned that more than ever. You know, I mean, we had plans and dreams and goals and all those things, and then over the last 2 years, that's all been taken away from us. Our ability to make a decision, even with regard to our even, and I'm not talking political. I'm not talking any of that stuff. I'm just saying that every one of us over the last year, like, our lives have been disrupted. For a long time, it was okay. I got my 10-year plan, my 5-year plan, 3-year plan, whatever it is, and we just go do it. Well, over the last 2 years, I think even the people that are the most structured people I know have had to adjust to, okay, well, actually, I don't have any plans. I got today.
Right.
I've got this moment. Like you said, I got this hour. I have today. I have my plans today God knows, especially what's going on right now in the world with, what's going on with, Russia and Ukraine and all those things. We don't know. We do not know what's going to happen. And that's scary, but I think the last 2 years has really taught us, it's stretched us a little bit. Like you said, man, God's in the details. And I know that's really weird to make that analogy or that, connection right now, but at the same time, God's in the details. My wife and I just had this conversation over dinner the other night. Like, we were talking about the world, and and she said, she's like, God knew, God knows, and that's really hard to get your head around. How God knows even the bad that's going on right now, but she's like, He's allowed it, He's aware, and that was a good reminder for me. So I'm sorry. Yeah. Back to your story, Arizona.
You're good. Yeah, you talk about God being He knows. He wrote the book before he finished the book before he started it. So everything is already done. So it's just playing out, and everything works together for the good. And I just, again with my story and having this injury, which once we were able to get the testing done, and they found out it was called a brachial plexus injury, which a brachial plexus is the nerves that go from your spinal cord into your arm. So it's really the pathway in which the brain can get the message to your arms and your fingers to move whichever way it needs to. So when I hit the guy, the force of it pretty much ruptured the brachial plexus from my spinal cord. So it just ripped it just pretty much got rid of that highway of communication. So my brain is not able to get the message to my arm to move. So when it first happened, they thought it was just a stretching of it, because you can have where it stretches and then over time it comes back, and they really no timetable, it just comes back. But then you have what's called an avulsion, which was my case, where you completely sever the brachial plexus from the spinal cord. So there's not much really that they can do. I went through a couple surgeries, had a couple 12-hour surgeries. I had to go out to St. Louis, Washington University, again out in Washington U, I think it's called, in St. Louis, and seen some specialists and had surgeries, and very minimal results. So I was left here with the realization that this is going to be my life, my life, if you will, trying to figure out how to operate in a majority world, meaning majority of people have two arms to operate with, to function with, to do tasks with but that wasn't me anymore. So I went from being what I considered a high level athlete to almost being feeling like I'm less than normal. So it was a big pendulum swing from there to where I was at, just in my own value. Because to that point, I really valued myself as an athlete, as a football player.
Right.
And that's where I spent most of my time doing. That's where I just felt like that's who I was. But it was at this instant that, that building that I had built myself up on was not on a solid foundation. And right after that injury was when the foundation of it all crumbled. So here I'm left with myself, just not knowing what my purpose was for life. I'm at home again. This happened January the 5th, 2009. And I'm at home with my daughter. My daughter's almost 2 at this time. And my wife is working, supporting us all. She had to really do everything for us. I couldn't work. I didn't have any income. I had already graduated, so I wasn't getting any financial support from Ohio State. I just had to figure it out, which figured out meant, her taking care of our family. It really struck me because, I grew up in a system my mom had to get food stamps, had to get, different government assistance and be on different programs. And here I was, I said that was never going to be me. And that was where I was at this time. We just didn't have. So had to get government assistance, had to get different things just to survive. Went from being an Ohio State football player, college degree, athlete, potential NFL hopes to in the system, having to get food stamps to survive. And it was just a big swing.
And you had to teach yourself. And I'm sorry, Shaun. You had to teach yourself because it's your right hand, right? Mm-hmm. It's your dominant hand. So you now had to become left-handed, which absolutely. I'm not. Were you ambidextrous before that? Because I'm not, and I know my left hand's useless. For me I can't write. I mean, I can't throw. I can't do any of those things. So you now had to on top of everything else, correct? Yeah. You had to now learn how to use your left hand. For everything that you have used your right hand. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I had to learn
on top of everything else.
Yep, writing, all of it. I mean, it was just a whole new phase, whole new journey of life that I was entering in. And I think about, I told you I have my daughter, and from January to maybe September, I barely left the house. I might have left the house a total of, I could probably count on one hand how many times I actually left outside of our house. I just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't feel comfortable being outside. I had lost so much weight at that time. It was just, I wasn't that big to begin with. I might have lost 15 pounds within a couple of weeks of it. Wow. And I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I wouldn't call it a depression, but I mean, if you talk to my wife, she probably would tell you otherwise, but I just wasn't in a good place. I just what was what drove me at that time, what was the gasoline in my tank at the time was my daughter. I got to spend so much time with her at home because we didn't put her in daycare. I just was at home with her. So my wife would go to work and, come back. But I spent all those days just me and her at the house, and our relationship grew. And, that was my why at the time. Yeah. That's what kept me going. That's what made me want to do better at life. So, I would spend so many nights on a computer trying to figure out ways to make money from home. I wouldn't go to sleep during the day. I mean, I would be up literally hours trying to figure out ways to, how can I make money? Mm-hmm. How can I, it just wanting to be home. So that was it was unique. But it was my fuel to go, my fuel to keep going because there was somebody dependent on me for their well-being, So that was that season of life. And then it wasn't until I started working. Actually, one of my friends referred me to Nationwide Insurance. I got a job with Nationwide. It wasn't until that point that things kind of the ball started rolling to some level of normalcy. I worked at a call center doing mutual fund exchanges, all of which I was teaching myself to write while I was there. I remember, I mean, you can barely understand how I could barely read my own handwriting at that time. But, Nationwide gave me a chance. They brought me in, and, I learned so much there. And just my first real experience with the corporate world as well, because I went from high school to college to, here I was. But, that journey of getting that injury and where I was during that season of life was just so challenging, because I didn't know who I was. I honestly did not know who I was. I grew up, as I mentioned, in the church, but what I learned was religion. I didn't have relationship, so I knew about what I shouldn't do. I knew about the things that I should do. But again, I think it was Paul that in the Bible says that. I know what I should. I know what I shouldn't do, and I do it. I know what I should do, and I don't do it. I mean, I think that's all of us can attest to that, and that's kind of where I was at. But I wasn't really building on my relationship with Christ, and it wasn't really until I started focusing on that, who He was in my life, as opposed to Him, which He is, being the God of the universe. It wasn't until that time that I really started seeing some real progress. Not only in my spiritual life, but in my personal life. And my wife, she put up with a lot, man. I couldn't imagine putting up with myself at that time. It was a dark season of life that I kind of block out. I talked to my wife about it at times, and she said, "Well, she said, when you talk to people, don't just breeze over it like it was just a couple months of your life. That was a time of your life that was a determining, a pivotal moment." That propelled you to where you are now. And I'm still in this moment, still learning different lessons. I shared with you that, Malcolm Jenkins came in at Ohio State, and then all that, I get switched positions, and then he's a starter, and he goes on to make this big career. I'm pretty sure he's still in the NFL, I think 15, 16 years later. But something that stuck out to me was during COVID and the shutdowns, and then also during the time where this big racial tension was going on in our country, and this divide and Black Lives Matter. And if you look at who was the spokesman, if you will, for the NFL during this call for equality, it was Malcolm.
Wow.
It was Malcolm Jenkins.
Right.
And I remember seeing him on TV, which we're still friends. We're still friends, but I remember seeing him on TV, and I thought, I don't know if I could have did that. Like, if I would have been that person in that seat, and the roles would have, I don't know, if I would have been my person, I probably wouldn't have been the person that would have spoke out and been a voice for hurting people. Not saying that I can't, but I just don't see myself being that person. So it wasn't until just these past few years that I kind of got an understanding or a glimpse into what God was doing way back then in 2005. I'm like, wow, God, you're so good. You're so good, because I just don't, I don't know that I would have been that person, would have been that voice, would have been willing to put my reputation on the line in a way in which he did, willing to put my income on the line for a cause. Again, I'm not saying I don't believe in it. I'm not saying I wouldn't have been on board with it, but he led it. There's a difference. He was out front. He was the face of it. He was the one headed to going to these meetings, speaking with the owners, speaking with different organizations, and figuring out ways to move the needle in the right direction. So again, that was just something that God revealed to me within the last couple of years that I didn't. He has this. He's in the details. Like I said, he's in all the details. So I mean, just an amazing experience that I had.
I have to tell you, so for people that don't know you, and I've had the blessing of meeting you, a handful of times. I was familiar with you before that, and what I was familiar with is that you're a guy of great energy, great passion, great joy, This is before I even knew your story. I mean, this is the honest truth. Like, my wife came home one night from a women's group that you had attended with her women's group, and you shared your story there. And she could not stop talking about your story. She just kept telling, more and more and more and all the details. And then I was like, all right, I got to meet this guy. I have to meet him. And I was already familiar with you. But what's amazing as you're talking is the way that you have, I have to think anyone listening to this, they've identified with something in your story. The thing that you just talked about, that could have been bitterness. That could have been bitterness. It could have been anger. It could have been resentment towards him, and yet you've worked through that. And there's times in our lives where we're going to be faced with somebody's going to get that promotion, somebody's going to whatever that we feel like was ours. It should have been ours. And you can either hold on to that and it can eat you up and you can be a prisoner of it, or you can deal with it. And it sounds like you dealt with it. There's obviously the physical, challenges that you've had. Mm-hmm. Again, I can either shut it down and not leave the house, like you said, and I trust me, if it was me, I probably still wouldn't have left the house. So I give you credit because, that's a season and you work through that season. But even in that season, you found your why, and that was your daughter. And so I commend you for that. So, as you were telling this story, what I think is anybody listening, there had to be something in there that you identify with, whether it was somebody else getting a promotion, something you feel like you set your life up on was stripped from you, whatever it might be, man. And the other thought I had while you were talking was, I heard a quote a few weeks ago that said, the God of your mountaintop is also the God of your valley. And man, that's how powerful that is, right? Because we like to celebrate the God of our mountaintop, like God is good, and yet I don't know that we always acknowledge that's the same God when we're in the valley. You know what I mean? And we want to share our frustration with him when we're in the valley, but we don't always praise him when we're on the mountain. And so you've been through both. And as you were talking, I was thinking about that. Like, you didn't lose focus of that, and he never left you. I don't know, man, there's just so much to your story. I think we could probably go on for hours and hours and hours, but I'm so thankful that you would come on and share it, because I can't wait for other people to hear it. But it's not over, because so since that time, where are you now? Like, you're doing a lot, and you have done a lot, and you're making an impact for the kingdom. So bring us up to speed. Where are you now?
Yeah. So now I'm actually a location pastor of our Rock City Church, of our Short North location. So something I never seen, I never knew was even in the cards. But again, God is in the details, and He knows. And this all came about off a random conversation that I had with Kyle Young. Met him because they were looking to have someone speak at an event. Mm-hmm. And I had not heard anything about Rock City Church, not known anything about it. So, I got a chance to meet with Kyle, and he just was a person of high character, and, a person with energy, and just a good person to be around. So I got to spend the time with him, started going to Rock City Church, and then, look at it now. I'm able to full time spend my time working in the ministry and making heaven full. Like that's our vision, that's our mission, is making heaven full and helping others to try to find value in themselves, all value of which can be found in Christ. Oftentimes we look and we plant our seeds in other places, but there's no better soil than the soil that God has, and the way in which He can grow. So right now, I just go around watering seeds, man, and thanking God for the harvest. I thank God for the mentality, because with this injury, there's a lot of things that I've learned from it. One, how to manage pain, because it's anytime you have nerve damage, it's constant pain all day. But I've been able to take my mind to a certain place where I can still function and go, regardless of it. Secondly, I have to figure out how to do things. I often critically think a lot of stuff, like, how can I get all these groceries in the house on one trip? So just little random stuff. It's not just you really have to think about different things. And, so from time I shoot with one hand but that's how I approach my business life too. So I do real estate, me and my wife, we buy houses and we rehab and we sell them. And that's my approach to it, thinking of different ways I could do it. That where it won't take up a lot of my time, where I can still be focused on God's kingdom and how I can play a part in that, but at the same time providing a good product in real estate. So it's just the way that I've been trained to think because of this injury. It's been so important and so fruitful to my life that I know I probably wouldn't have this way of thinking, this capacity to operate in which I do if it had not happened. So I'm grateful to God that He allowed me to reach this level of thinking. There's so much more to go, so many more levels to achieve, so much more to the story. Mm-hmm. But at this time, I'm just I'm glad, I'm grateful, and my hope is that I could just be a source of hope to anybody. I don't go out and share my story often, but if someone comes to me and say, "Hey, I think this might help somebody," just sign me up. I'm there. I'll share. I'll do what I can to help others, because I think that's where my real passion. I think we all looking for our purpose. I think that's where my purpose is, trying to help others achieve different levels and get them to places where God has for them to be. So,
I don't want to correct you. You said you don't share your story often, and I want to say yet.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say. Yeah. All right. No. Anyway. All right. I'm going to leave it at that. You don't share your story often yet, because I think you have a platform and a personality. And I want to go back to what you just said, because I don't want to breeze over that. You're running a business, and but again, you just said, man, when you said that, like, I want people to understand, in case they missed it, you have to figure out how to tie your shoe with one hand.
Yeah.
Dude, that's something that, like, we take that for granted. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want people to hear that, just in case, because you breezed over it like it was nothing. Yeah. I guarantee you, I can't tie a shoe with one hand right now. I can't. There's zero chance I can do that. That's a daily, and I'm sure by now you've probably figured out how. But at there was a moment where you said, all right, I got to figure this out. And so please, anyone listening to this, appreciate the fact that this man has gone through what he's gone through. He's sitting here, and on video you can see he's got a smile on his face that you always see. Every time I've ever seen you, man, you got that smile on your face. You are literally, you ooze enthusiasm. And again, I don't want people to miss the fact that, in case you didn't, go back and listen to the story again. You have every reason to be bitter, angry, frustrated, and literally, you have every reason, and here you sit smiling as big as you can smile, affecting all those around you, including a women's group that you visited one night, and I'm sure at Rock City and all the ways that you're ministering there. Man, I just have nothing but so much respect and I have so much love for you, because I just think we take for granted. I've said this on so many podcasts. There's a lyric that says, you better take your so-called problems and put them in quotations, because there's always someone else, man, that's dealing with something that, again, gas prices are high right now. Everybody's complaining about it. You had to figure out how to tie your shoe with one hand. Like, you see what I'm saying? I mean, in the big picture, our problems, air quotes, man, they're not problems, not to somebody else. The way that you have taken your life and just said, okay, God, I'm gonna, and yet look back and seen how God was faithful and how He has interwoven your story. Man, it's so powerful. That's why I couldn't wait to get you on. I've been bugging you for a while because I couldn't wait to get you on, and I can't wait to get you in front of other people, because your story is powerful, and any chance I have to share you with any audience, because I know you are going to impact other people, and that's awesome. That is your why. But let's just say this: you spoke about your why being your daughter. You got a baller at home, man. She's good.
Yeah, she's been gifted. We're grateful for the gifted talent
in this
house.
She's really good.
She's been having good. I think she got third team All State this year as a freshman. So
outstanding.
Yeah, she's a good athlete. We actually put her in Christian school in Tree of Life, so that's where she's attending. Because as a parent, I'm trying to, make sure that I'm focused on, her salvation and her development with Christ. And we're really relying on God to do the rest in regards to the opportunity. The talent is there, and we truly believe we're trying to figure out God didn't give me the talent just to play basketball, just like he didn't give me the ability to run and jump just to play football. But there's so much more that has come from those talents, from those opportunities that he presented me with, that now I can have, or now I'm invited to this type of platform where people will listen to me. I don't know that would be the same if he didn't give me those talents and those abilities. So, it's just how can we serve God in the midst of being humble and grateful for what he did give us? Because that's normally the hardest thing to be grateful for, is the things that we were given that we didn't have to work for. Which again, I believe that my daughter, she works. I'm not gonna say she don't do any work, but at this point, I think she's still riding that wave of talent too. That God was super generous in that aspect. So definitely. But yeah, man, we're thankful. Me and my wife we're just talking about our schedule, trying to navigate through it because she's track season now and she's doing AAU basketball. So, but I get to see it from this aspect of a parent. Because living out what I had a chance to live out, but on the other end, so it's a blessing that she not only has the talent, but she has the mind to want to do it, to want to get better, to stay out of trouble. But hey, she got a mind to love the Lord too. So
Which is a great role model. And again, I go back to the fact that at the earliest times when that cement was really, really wet. You know what I mean? You were there to help mold and shape who she is today. And she knows your story on top of everything else. And so she's got an excellent role model and something to look back to that's right in her own home. And it's her dad and his story when she looks at her faith and she starts to create her own faith, as we said, not her parents' faith and not religion, not just going to church, but actually scripting her faith and who she is. She's got a great role model, and she doesn't have to look very far, any farther than her dad. And honestly, man, and you probably know this too. Like, I think so many of us form our faith from our dad, or our relationship with our father, because that's that it's such a mere situation. And she's got a great role model, man. She's got a great role model, and they both do, because you have two daughters, correct?
I got three
daughters. There you go. So all three, man, all three have a wonderful role model in their home. And I've never met your bride, but I'm sure from what I've heard, and seen,
she's amazing.
You are a power couple and a wonderful couple, and they have great role models in their home.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Aaron. Something I will share before we end it here.
Yes, sir.
And this is something I just experienced within the last year. I try to portray myself as being normal. I didn't want people to look at me as if I had I don't even call it a disability. So for years, I've always walked around with my hand in my pocket. And when I was at Walmart, I worked with people for 2 or 3 years before they even knew I had an injury, because they always seen my hand in my pocket. Well, this past year, we had a staff retreat, and Pastor Chad challenged us to ask God, like, what is it? What do we need to give up? God wants to move in our life, but we have to give up something. And I asked him that, and I heard him say my reputation. And I'm like, what you mean my reputation? Like, I don't get it. Like, I work for the church. Everybody knows, but he said your reputation. So as I was leaving that meeting that we had, someone on staff came to me and said, I don't know, I just talking to God, said maybe he's asking you to take a step of faith, and I don't know, maybe have you, not have your hand in your pocket. And that was something I was already thinking. But then when she came to me and said that, I'm like, yeah. So that was the start of my journey so I haven't, since that day, I've been able to experience the freedom of not having my hand in my pocket, then just letting it's out there. And again, it's just, I feel like I gave up my reputation of not trying to look as if I don't want to say I have a disability again, but I always wanted to hide it so people won't look at me or judge me differently just by that. So, and again, this was just last year that I've been able to experience the freedom of just going about my day, who I am because it was something that I had to. I couldn't buy certain pants if the pockets weren't big enough to put my hand in it comfortably. Wow. So right. It was just a lot of stuff I couldn't do. I had to factor in, had to consider, simply because I always had my hand in my pocket. But it was just some freedom I experienced, and I'm still learning as I go throughout this journey. But that was the most recent thing that God revealed to me, and I'm growing in it, and I'm just thankful for it. So I have a challenge anybody that's listening. Maybe God has something that He wants for or from you, but you have to ask Him, like, what is it that you need to give up for Him to step into that space, to give you a level of freedom that you probably never experienced before. So I want to encourage you, whoever it might be, if you're hearing this, ask God what it is. He wants to be involved. We talked about the details. He wants to be involved in every detail of our life, but He won't force Himself in. He wants the invitation. He'll only move on the invitation. So hopefully that's, that meant something to somebody. But yeah.
Well, I can tell you the whole hour has meant something to somebody. If it didn't mean anything to anybody else, it meant something to me. And it's meant something to me since the day I met you, since the day it meant something to my wife, since the day she met you. You are just such a blessing and a bright light. And I'm just thankful. I'm thankful to have you on and to share your story. Can I ask you real quick?
Yes, sir.
Whether it's on socials or if you have email, or if something has resonated with somebody and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that? If that's okay for me to ask. If not, just reach out to me and I'll put you in touch. But is there an email or are you on socials, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, just Shaun Lane on Facebook, or you get me on Instagram. It's _ Shaun, SHAUN _ Lane, LANE _ so 3 underscores. Reach out to me there. My account is not private. Feel free to shoot me a direct message or whatever. I'm always open. I love meeting new people. I just do. I really enjoy it because you get to hear a new story. You get to hear about another aspect of God's grace that you may not have even been aware of, man. It's always a privilege to meet and encounter and engage with new people. So yeah, hit me up on social media. That's normally the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Well, you're the man. And if not, again, just reach out to me, Aaron at myunscripted.com, and I will get you in touch, or I'll pass on the message, however we want to do that. But, and please do that, because it's, you took an hour of your time today, to be here. You carved out some time to share your story. And I genuinely mean it. You are a blessing, man. Your joy is just so enthusiastic. It's so contagious, and I love that about you. And so, man, that was it. I just thank you for your time. It's been wonderful, and I'm so thankful that you would come on with us.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity, man. I'll be praying for you and everyone, all the listeners out there, man. Thank you guys for just a moment of your ear. All
right. Well, and I don't think we've heard the last from Shaun. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm the king of the cliffhanger. So I'll leave the cliffhanger out there. Who knows what that even means, but I know we haven't heard the last from you. So you're my brother, man. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Talk soon.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Unscripted Podcast with your host, Aaron Conrad, from his studio at the Junction in Old Hilliard. Make sure to like, share, follow, and review on your favorite podcast platforms. Also, make sure to check out my song Great and Mighty One on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you find your music. We'll see you next time on Unscripted with Aaron Conrad.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out.
The pandemic has been hard on all our kids. New studies show more than 1 in 3 children who started school in the pandemic now need intensive reading help. That's right. Millions of kids in kindergarten through 3rd grade in the United States cannot read at grade level. Here's the good news. Your child can be reading in just 30 days, guaranteed, with Hooked on Phonics. Even if your child has been struggling, Hooked on Phonics will teach your child to read in just 30 days, guaranteed. And right now, you can get started for just $1. $1. Text the word GRADE to 323232 right now. Hooked on Phonics is highly effective and incredibly fun, and everything can be done right from home and in less than 20 minutes a day for more than 30 years. Hooked on Phonics has been the proven learn-to-read program that kids love to use. Text GRADE to 323232 and teach your child to read in just 30 days, guaranteed. Text GRADE to 323232 right now and get started for just $1. Text GRADE to 323232 now. Text GRADE to 323232.
When you bundle your renters and auto insurance with Progressive, you could save money, but it doesn't cover any terrible memories living rent-free in your head.
Hey, just wanted to remind you of that time your kicker missed the extra point and lost the game. Even though he'd literally never missed an extra point, he chose this playoff game to miss. Yeah, I just noticed you hadn't thought about that in a bit. Wouldn't want you to miss, thinking about it.
Sorry, we can't save you from that memory, but we could save you money bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Coverage from Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and third-party insurers. Renters insurance and bundle discount not available in all states or situations.